Welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve and this is Joe. Today we're going to be talking about Week 14 starts and sits. Do it a little bit differently here. We talk about a ceiling play, a floor play, and a sit play. And we don't give you gimmies. We try to give you a player that is kind of hard for us to say you should sit them, but we want to make it relevant for you in your league. So Joe, let's get right to it. Starting off with the quarterbacks, our ceiling play of the week is quarterback Jared Goff. He's going up against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I really like Jared Goff this week. Going against the Vikings. These are two good offensive teams. Could be a lot of points scored. So I think Goff is a really good high ceiling play this week.
I want to say, and I don't know this for sure. I wish I should have thought about this ahead of time and had this prepared. But I want to say there's only like 3 or 4 teams that have had multiple 40-point games. It's like the Bills, the Chiefs, and I think like the Lions is one of them. The Lions are a offensive powerhouse. You wouldn't think of it that way, but Lions, they're a good offense. And like you said, Minnesota, they are susceptible big time to the pass. So to me, Jared Goff is a juicy matchup this week. I really like his outlook for this week.
Yeah, I do as well. You definitely could do a lot worse than Jared Goff this week.
Oh, absolutely. So going over to our floor play of the week, we've got quarterback Ryan Tannehill going up against Jacksonville Jaguars.
I know you were a little hesitant on this one.
I was.
But I had to kind of steer you over the edge here. Yeah, I think Tannehill's a fine, safe play against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A secondary that you can definitely throw on, and they should be able to get the play action game rolling here. And I think he's just a safe option that won't hurt you.
Yeah, there are a couple matchups this week. We'll talk about our sit play, but there are a couple matchups just looking at who's available that are kind of shaky. So it does make sense why we would include Ryan Tannehill as a possible floor play. I mean, obviously he's not going to give you a ton of points. That's not what he's known for. He's not going to have a ceiling. But if you don't want to get an absolute zero and bottom out, he's a good floor play for you.
Yeah, that's why I brought him up. I mean, like you said, it's not a sexy name and won't get you a lot of points, but he just to be, a safe guy for you.
Yeah, so our sit of the week, Joe, this will be our second time we have this guy on the sits. We got quarterback Tom Brady going up against at San Francisco.
Yeah, Steve, you mentioned the second time. I really don't like to do this to the GOAT, but just lately he hasn't looked that great, and the 49ers defense is for real. They showed that last week against the Dolphins, shutting down that high-powered offense that they have, and Tua for once, didn't look that great. And then, Brady against the Saints defense last week at home without Lattimore really couldn't exploit it until he absolutely had to late in that game, running that 4-minute offense essentially. So, yeah, I really don't like him this week against, on the road in San Fran.
No, I don't like it either. He actually proved us a little bit wrong near the end. He salvaged his day with those touchdowns, but still overall he didn't have a great day. So let's look at some options, Joe. We talked about Jared Goff. Would you start Jared Goff instead of Tom Brady? Would you start, let's go Daniel Jones versus the Eagles, or would you start Ryan Tannehill? We just talked about him going up against the Jaguars.
Yeah, some interesting options. I mean, Tannehill's the one that's obviously a little shaky, but the other two, Daniel Jones and Goff for sure, I'd be willing to start over Brady. Tannehill would be a harder sell. But
he's the floor of the week, Joe. How could we not start Ryan Tannehill? He's the floor of the week.
He is a floor of the week. Just, if you need more points, I don't know, but he should. Whether or not he'll get more points than Brady, I mean, I think he should be able to. I don't see Brady being able to do too much in this game.
Okay, I'd say I would start all 3. So let's go. I'll give you a few other names here. This is. I know you don't like the player, but it's a great matchup. Would you play Mac Jones at Arizona? Would you play Deshaun Watson at Cincinnati, or Magic Mike going up at Buffalo?
Yeah, with Deshaun Watson, I'm doing a wait and see approach. I really can't start him. He didn't look that well, and then
No.
on the road against the Bengals, and the Bengals just beat the Chiefs and slowed down that offense, so hard to start him. Um, Mac Jones, like you said, as much as his name and it's hard to say to start, you're not wrong about the Arizona Cardinal matchup. It is possible that he could be good. And then Mike White on the road against the Bills. I mean, it's not the greatest matchup, but he could have an okay game for you. I could see, the Bills, you've been able to put up some points on them. They haven't been as locked down. No Von Miller anymore. I think I'd be willing to throw the dart on Mike White here.
Yeah, I would definitely start Mac Jones over Brady. I'm not as concerned as you are with him. I think they'll bounce back against the Cardinals. As far as the other two guys, though, Mike White, definitely not Watson. I agree. You can't start Watson, even though I'm going to have to. So what do I know? Oh, well, actually, that's interesting. I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Well, you have Watson and
Brady. And I think I'm starting Watson. Actually, I said no, you can't. But see, I'm chasing the points, though. So I think Watson's more likely to get me more points. So I guess in theory, I am starting Watson instead of Brady. So
if you're chasing the points, Steve says go with Watson over Brady.
Well, but see, for me, it's like absolute desperation. Like this is like there's a ceiling play, and then there's absolute desperation, and that's where I'm at. I am gonna get absolutely smashed, and so for me, it's like I might as well play a guy and just hope. It's like I'm toast. So I guess I would say I am gonna start Watson over him, and then Mike White. Yeah, that one's tough for me. The Bills' defense on paper, it's a tough defense, but they've had some nagging injuries, all year. And if Matt Milano, who's day to day, if he doesn't play either, that concerns me. And I probably would start Mike White instead of him too. It's tough to say it, but I just don't like that. That Niners defense scares me, and that defense, that offense is like quicksand. They barely move.
Yeah, what scares me most is just that offensive line, and we just saw Nick Bosa wreck the game for Tua. And it's hard not to see him doing the absolute same with Tom Brady, a guy who really can't move at all. So,
it's going to be a scary sight. So, transitioning over to the running back show, ceiling of the week, and we've been down this guy for several of our videos, but we're going with running back DeAndre Swift going up against the Vikings.
Yeah, we were down on him. He was injured and then underutilized, and Jamal Williams is kind of taken over there. But now that he's healthy, we saw the flip script completely flip last week, where he completely outpaced Jamal Williams. So, with that going forward here, I would expect, Swift to continue to be the number one back there and get the bulk of the carries. And he's got a really good matchup this week.
Yeah, like you said, we expect an offensive shootout. He's looking healthier now. I think we'll really see him get involved. I mean, Lions are contending for a playoff spot. They want this. They haven't been in the playoffs for years. So, they're going to be hungry. So I like Swift as a ceiling play. That's why he's a ceiling, though. We talk about ceilings and floors. That's the reason why, because there is a possibility that Swift gets injured and leaves the game, or something crazy happens and Jamal Williams gets involved. You just never know with him. But he's a ceiling play, and if you're chasing the points, he's a good option.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
All right, so going over to our floor play of the week. Our floor play is Ezekiel Elliott going up against Houston.
Yeah, the ceiling play for the Cowboys is by far Tony Pollard, but then there's Zeke, who's continually just putting up nice numbers. He gets a decent amount of carries, and then always seems to find his way into the end zone, which always nice for fantasy. So, and then he's going up against the worst rated run defense with the Texans. I mean, and then should be able to get up early and maintain a lead, so should get plenty of carries in this one.
Yeah, I have Zeke in our Dynasty League, and I have to tell you, it's really nice having him because I know if I start him, he's going to give me a bankable amount of points, and I know what to expect. The Texans defense is the worst in the league. Don't overthink it. This is an automatic, and even if I had ceiling plays that I think they could do better, I just really like the security. It's like he's like a security blanket, and to me, I like that. And to me, I'd rather just know I'm going to put him in there, and I know I'm going to get a good amount of points for him. So our sit of the week, Joe, is running back Dameon Pierce going up at Dallas.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce, he's been a fine play for most of the year. I know he's had his some up and downs here lately, but this is not a time to start Dameon Pierce going up against the Cowboys. I think the Texans offense should get a little bump here with Mills coming back in over Kyle Allen, who's been just awful. But this is not the matchup or defense you want to face.
Absolutely not. So let's look at some options here, Joe. Would you start James Conner versus New England instead of Dameon Pierce? Would you start Najee Harris versus Baltimore? Or would you start Isaiah Pacheco at Denver?
Yeah, none of those matchups are really great that you mentioned. I'd have more faith in all three of those guys over Dameon Pierce, and those guys are also on just better offenses, so I trust that more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the thing that concerns me most about Pierce is the game script. That's the thing that really concerns me is, we've seen when the Texans get rolled over that, he's phased out of the offense because they're not running the ball. So that concerns me big time. How about Joe? I know you've got these players. What about Jamal Williams versus Minnesota? You got Jeff Wilson at the Chargers, or why not Leonard Fournette at San Francisco?
Yeah, I think Jeff Wilson should be a smash play this week against the Chargers. As long as the workload stayed prior to that 49ers game last week where he was getting more involved than Mostert. I don't know what happened in that game, but it's tough at 49ers defense. I'm just tossing that out and just, Jeff Wilson should be a smash play. And then, Williams seems to be safe for a touchdown every week. So I definitely start him over. The interesting one is Fournette. I think I'd still be willing to start Fournette over Dameon Pierce, even, despite the tough matchup, just because his usage has still been high.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think you and I both are just fading Pierce with that with that Dallas defense. We can't justify the play. So transitioning over to the wide receivers now, Joe. Our ceiling of the week, and you all might think I'm nuts. I had to convince Joe a little bit on this one. Is wide receiver George Pickens going up against Baltimore?
Yeah, I think he's a fine ceiling play in the fact that, like you said, he's definitely risky. As he's shown, he only had one catch last week. I think he does rebound. The Baltimore Ravens they're definitely susceptible to the big play, and I think he could be a decent play. Now, my true ceiling play of the week would be DJ Chark, but we went with Pickens.
Oh boy, giving up the
Hey, if people want a ceiling
here.
play, hey, dart throw with DJ Chark, man. Like you said, that game's gonna be high scoring. If you want another ceiling play, look for DJ Chark on your waiver wire.
Shaking my head on that one, Joe. For me, when it comes to Pickens, if you told me that he would have gotten one catch for 2 yards against the Atlanta Falcons, I would have thought you're nuts, and that's what happened. But he was fiery. He was really upset that he wasn't getting the ball. And I saw in Mike Tomlin's press conference, he was basically saying, look, I like his passion. And I'd rather do that than having to tell him, like, to sick him. I need you to get more involved. I need you to be more passionate. So they don't want him to get checked out. So I think that I would be shocked if he doesn't get at least 6+ targets, maybe even more. I'd be curious what the over under would be if they even do that for targets. But to me, he's going to get involved. Baltimore's a division rival. Those games are usually pretty competitive. They've got bad blood between each other. So I think it'd be his first crack at the rivalry too. So I expect big things for George Pickens. And you got an alternative with Chark that Joe provided. So our floor of the week is wide receiver Christian Kirk at Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Chark is definitely, or not Chark.
No, we're not talking
Kirk,
about
rather.
Chark. Joe. We're talking about Christian Kirk. I know you want to talk about
Yes.
Chark. We're talking about
Yes.
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk should be a safe play. Titans have been better along the defensive front and more stingy against the run, but their secondary is definitely susceptible. So, as long as my one concern is the health of Trevor Lawrence, but even if Beathard plays, I think he's still a fine, safe play for you.
Yeah, to me, Kirk is, he gets heavily targeted by Trevor Lawrence, and the Tennessee Titans defense is definitely susceptible. So to me, I think it's I think it's a good option for sure. And our sit of the week is wide receiver Amari Cooper going up at Cincinnati, Joe. This is a tough one for me, but you convinced me that this was a good one.
Yeah, I know it's tough and he's had a lot of breakout games, but it just, for whatever reason, this guy's home and road splits are just incredible. When he's on the road, he just doesn't score that many points and doesn't have that many receptions, but for some reason he likes playing in Cleveland or even neutral sites, as he had a huge game against the Bills. But this also plays into Watson not looking well and just not sure what we're going to get out of him. And the Bengals once again, showed that they're pretty good defense as well. So I definitely think there's better options.
All right, Joe, I'm going to put you to the test here. Would you start Mike Evans at San Francisco, Devonta Smith at New York Giants, or Juju Smith-Schuster at Denver instead of Amari Cooper?
There's just some pretty tough decisions here, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I know Evans is going up against the 49ers defense, but Brady just targets him quite a bit. I think he still gets a decent amount, so I would be confident in Evans over Cooper. Juju's interesting. Denver matchup, and then they kind of MVS is kind of looking to get a little more work lately, and it's kind of a different guy each week, so I might start Cooper instead of Juju. Who was the other guy?
The other guy was Devonta Smith.
Oh yeah, I'd be willing to start Devonta Smith over Cooper.
Yeah, see, I think I'd play Cooper instead of all three of those guys. I'm worried about Evans with the 49ers defense. I definitely am fading Juju. And I don't know, Devonta Smith, I think could be more of an A.J. Brown game than a Devonta Smith game.
Well, it's always more of an A.J. Brown than a Devonta Smith, but I still think Smith could be a solid play.
Wow, they've actually been pretty good against the pass. If I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they are. So, I mean, you could be right. I think Cooper got heavily targeted. It's just a question of Deshaun Watson, and is he going to be a competent quarterback to be able to get him the ball? I think that's really the question.
Yeah, and that's where I guess I have more faith in those other quarterbacks than Watson to actually do that.
Yeah, which is honestly very, very fair for sure. So transitioning over to the tight end of the week, we've got our ceiling of the week, and it's tight end Hunter Henry going up at Arizona.
Yeah, this isn't so much a product of Hunter Henry as it is playing the Arizona Cardinals, and they're just one of the best defenses to go up against it for the tight end position. We've seen Hunter Henry have some good games in the past, and I think this is definitely one that he could exploit the matchup. And if you're in a pinch and need a tight end, I mean, there is 6 teams on bye this week. I think Henry's a decent option for you.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously wasn't as consistent as last year, and we were expecting some regression with all the touchdowns he got. But you saw what he did against Minnesota, almost had 2 touchdowns in that game. So it is definitely a possibility. And like you said, Arizona is bad at defending the tight end, and it's a easy play when you got the Cardinals or the Seahawks. You've been saying that all year. So, to me, I think Hunter Henry, he could goose you, but that's a part of the ceiling.
Yeah, 100%. It's a risk reward. I think the reward's higher than the risk here. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there is potential where he might not just get targeted or utilized, and maybe it's Jonnu Smith instead. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, honestly. So over to our floor play, and we got your man, Greg Dulcich, tight end for the Denver Broncos, going up against Kansas City.
Yeah, I think Greg Dulcich is another safe play this week, coming off of his 6 receptions for, I think, 85 yards last week against the Ravens. And, it looks like Sutton's not going to play again. So it looks like he should have another good week. And then the Chiefs are another team that you can take an advantage of at the tight end position. ESPN's got him rated 29th against the tight end. So.
Yeah, I think it's a great play. I think especially with Cortland Sutton possibly out for the game and him being more of a wide receiver type role that they were talking about. I think he's gonna get heavily targeted, and this tight end it's been a tough one all year talking about tight ends. So I think he could do a lot worse. And I think he's gonna be a good floor for you. So our sit of the week is and we're expecting him to be back this week, is tight end David Njoku going up at Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think a lot of this with Njoku, I mean, Cincinnati is definitely not the best matchup for him. And then, as we keep mentioning, with Watson not looking that great, and we haven't seen them on the field together yet. So I think with that, I'd just sit them and kind of do a wait and see here.
All right, Joe. So putting you to the test here. Would you start Hunter Henry at Arizona, Greg Dulcich versus Cincinnati, versus Kansas City? We've talked about both these guys. Or would you start Chigoziem Okonkwo going up against the Jaguars?
Oh God. Well, obviously, our ceiling and floor plays are going to be played over Njoku for sure. But I guess, if you want an absolute dart throw and a guy that could maybe make the big play as we've seen, in the Chiefs game and such, although, with Treylon Burks maybe being questionable, maybe Okonkwo is worth it. I think I might be able to. I think I might be willing to throw him in over Njoku. Probably, it's a name that probably many people aren't familiar with, but plays tight end for the Tennessee Titans. Believe you said earlier he had 5 targets last week. So, and Tannehill's my floor play, so he's got to throw it to somebody.
Well, you heard it here. You heard it here, folks. Joe is starting Okonkwo over Njoku. I'm not that bold. I would definitely start Njoku over Okonkwo. I think he's actually a good player. I think he's a budding player. Like he's really coming into his own. He's a rookie. I think people are kind of nervous because he had so much hype around Jonnu Smith with the Titans, a very athletic tight end, and he never turned into anything. So it's like, is this like Jonnu Smith 2.0? But for 6 buys, 6 teams on bye this week, you could do a lot worse, and there are some difficult matchups on. Or actually, no, we were saying that there were some really easy matchups on the slate, didn't we? For tight ends,
I mean, for the most part, a lot of tight ends had pretty good matchups across the board, honestly.
Yeah, so you might not have to make a tough decision in starting Okonkwo.
Yeah, I mean, and if Njoku's out, I mean, if there's not if Evan Ingram's not on your waiver wire or something, I think you could do a lot worse than Okonkwo.
There you go. All right, so that's our starts and sits for week 14. You can go ahead and support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting that notification bell. We create several videos on a weekly basis, so it is important to hit that bell. And if you have any comments about who you should start and who you should sit this week, go ahead and put some comments below. We're happy to give you our advice. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time.